You are listening to the audio production of The Imitation of Mary by Thomas A. Kempis, published by Catholic Book Publishing Corp. This book is read by Arthur Morey. Foreword. Among the very numerous and substantial writings of Thomas Hamerkin, better known as Thomas A. Kempis, 1380 to 1471, attention has been paid mainly to those that were harmoniously assembled into the 4 books known as The Imitation of Christ. Over the centuries, this work has seen many translations into various languages, so that after sacred scripture itself, it has always been the most widely read book, and has, with good reason, been regarded as a spiritual directory for those who seriously desire to cultivate the interior life. Bossuet called it the Fifth Gospel, and Abbot Olivet spoke of it as the finest book that has emerged from human hands, just as the Gospel came from the hands of God. A great many saints were formed with the help of this golden book, as can be seen from the biographies of not a few of them. Oddly enough, however, when the Kempis's writings were being organized, the opportunity was not taken to gather into a single volume the no less valuable passages that deal with Mary. This was a serious omission. On the one hand, it meant that the neglect of the author's magnificent pages on Our Lady as the providential way to Christ and God. On the other hand, it meant that the providential way of Mary, as described in the writings of an authentic spiritual teacher, was practically hidden for centuries from so many souls. There has, of course, been no lack of other authors who have written excellent pages on the important place of Our Lady in our interior life. The point to be made, however, is that in the process of offering the Imitation of Christ, this crowning work of Christian asceticism, another crowning work was passed over in silence. I mean one on the Imitation of Mary, which is so well described by Thomas. Despite the fact that this imitation or following is subsidiary to the imitation of Christ, the fact remains that God has willed it too. As a result, it seems that A. Kempis's admirable teaching has in this way been drastically and ungenerously reduced. As I read the 7 volumes of M.J. Pohl's critical edition of the writings of Thomas A. Kempis, I was continually enchanted by the beautiful pages Thomas wrote on Our Lady. I also asked myself how it was that we were given an imitation of Christ, a lofty work indeed, but also one that is in practice incomplete, since it does not speak of Mary, even though in the author's writings and thought she seems inseparable from Christ. There have in the past been students who have interested themselves in these Marian writings, but they have not done so in a systematic and organized way. Only recently have L. Locatelli and B. Ferragamo, Montfort fathers both, attempted a systematic organization of the material, with a translation into Italian. Suitably enough, they laid out their work in 4 books and titled it The Imitation of Mary, in parallel with The Imitation of Christ. But except in the case of those who have had the good fortune to read their work, it does not seem to have pushed through the curtain of silence around these Marian writings of A. Kempis. I have had to deal with 2 difficulties in selecting and organizing all the Marian writings of Thomas A. Kempis and in translating them into Italian. The first was unavoidable, inasmuch as the author did not plan and organize these writings as a unified work. The second urged me to respect the semantic expressiveness of the Latin text, and even the lexical choices that embellish it, and thereby avoid the complaint of Francesco d'Ovidio, who claimed that a translator, traduttore, is always somewhat of a traitor, traditore. With an eye on the text published by Fathers Locatelli and Ferragamo, I have thought it useful to keep the division into 4 books that are broken up into chapters and subdivided into numbered passages. At the same time, however, I have applied a personal criterion that I think more suitable for bringing together all of the author's Marian texts.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?